Big Apple, 3 a.m.
Octopath Traveler is a Nintendo Switch exclusive developed by Square Enix and Acquire, which released on July 13th, 2018. It was produced by Tomoya Asano and Masashi Takahashi, whom both had worked together on its spiritual predecessors, Bravely Default and Bravely Second for the Nintendo 3DS. The visual style of Octopath Traveler is a love letter and a callback to the golden age of JRPGs of the 16 and 32-bit eras. The presentation is reminiscent of certain Squaresoft and Enix classics such as Final Fantasy VI, Romancing Saga 2, and Star Ocean: The Second Story. The retro-style pixel art is delightful, and it blends wonderfully with the lush environments and the modern high-definition visual effects. Exploring the map is an absolute joy, and it's easy for one to get lost in the beauty of Ostera. The bosses have all been animated beautifully and have a charming, larger-than-life aesthetic to them. In this modern age of increasing resolutions and steady frame rates, Octopath Traveler still manages to look stunning. The battle system is your standard turn-based JRPG fare with physical attacks, magic spells, and skills depending on your class. Once a battle has been initiated, your party members and the enemies are each assigned a turn to attack. If you attack the enemy with the right weapon or right magic element, their shield gauge will begin to deplete. When the shield gauge reaches 0, the enemy's guard will break. Once broken, the enemy will lose their turn and will be temporarily vulnerable for massive damage. The boost system, which is inspired by Bravely Default's Brave mechanic, adds a significant layer of depth to the combat by letting your characters stack battle points to either land extra blows with their physical attacks or make their spells and special moves that much more effective. You only earn one battle point each turn, which will require you to strategize your assaults accordingly. Knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them is essential in Octopath Traveler, especially during some of the difficulty spikes later on in the game. The game rewards you and gives you bonuses if you're able to break your opponent, finish them off in one turn, and win the battle without a scratch. I found the combat system to be extremely addictive, so the level grinding never felt like a chore to me. I truly enjoyed the challenge in some of the more difficult boss battles. After a long 30-45 minute boss battle, you'll either end up with a sense of dread once you realize you're running low on items, or exhilaration and accomplishment once you realize you've overcome them. The story is told with a non-linear approach, which may be a bit of a disappointment for some gamers who may have been looking for an overarching narrative. You pick one out of the 8 characters to start your journey, and from there you can proceed to recruit the other protagonists in whatever order you please. There isn't a big bad or a common cause that glues these characters together. Instead, you have 8 completely different characters with 8 completely different motives and stories that play out in 32 chapters. Whenever a new member joins your party, you get to play their respective origin story in a series of flashbacks. Aside from the occasional banter in between some of the chapters, there's little communication to be had amongst the party members. This actually happens to be my biggest gripe with the game. That's not to say that the individual stories weren't engaging. In fact, some of the stories were great, but the party members join each other in their journey with little rhyme or reason. Each character has their own unique job class, as well as a unique path action ability. Path actions are field skills that help you interact with the world of Octopath Traveler. I can really appreciate the way that you could solve certain side quests in different ways depending on what character's path action you decided to use. The music in this game is nothing short of a masterpiece. Yasunori Nishiki delivers a brilliant orchestral score that fits perfectly with many of the game's themes of adventure, despair, sorrow, revenge, and betrayal. Some of these compositions will stick with you well after your journey is over. Some gamers out there may have some reservations about paying full price on what may seem like an indie title on the surface. However, you can rest assured that Octopath Traveler does not skimp out on the content. The main story is 32 chapters, which will take about 50 hours or so to complete. There are job classes to unlock, side dungeons, optional bosses to challenge, and countless side quests for you to immerse yourself in the world of Ostera. You will need to have logged in well over 100 hours to see everything that Octopath Traveler has to offer. For the JRPG faithfuls out there, Octopath Traveler will scratch an itch that hasn't been touched in years. The whole ends up being much greater than the sum of its parts. While not a perfect game, Octopath Traveler managed to meet my expectations and deliver in spades. If you have a Nintendo Switch, I would strongly suggest that you pick this game up, and I would definitely consider it a must-buy. I give Octopath Traveler an A.